The call came just after sunrise, and by the time I answered, my entire life had already started changing without me realizing it. Some moments don't arrive with warning. They crash into your ordinary day like a storm, leaving everything familiar behind. My best friend, the one person I had silently loved for years without ever finding the courage to admit it, spoke only one sentence before my heart began pounding harder than it ever had. She told me she needed me to pretend to be her boyfriend for one weekend. Then, after a long pause that somehow made the silence louder than any scream, she whispered that they only needed one room. If you believe kindness deserves a second chance and that some of the greatest love stories begin with friendship, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who believes in hope, and subscribe to Ancient Truth for more emotional stories that touch the heart. Morning sunlight painted golden lines across the city as Rowan Mercer stared through his apartment window, wondering if he had heard correctly. His quiet life had always been predictable. He worked as an architectural photographer, spending his days capturing beautiful buildings while returning every evening to an empty apartment filled with books, camera equipment, and memories he never spoke about. For almost 8 years, one person had remained the brightest part of his world. Her name was Mirelle Ashcroft, a cheerful event planner whose laughter could make strangers smile and whose kindness somehow survived every disappointment life placed before her. They had met during college after accidentally reaching for the same library book, and from that awkward beginning had built an unbreakable friendship. Everyone around them assumed they were secretly dating. Everyone except them. The truth was painfully simple. Rowan had loved Mirelle almost from the beginning, but fear had always been stronger than hope. He believed that confessing his feelings could destroy the friendship that meant everything to him. So he buried his emotions beneath jokes, road trips, birthday surprises, and countless evenings listening to her dreams while pretending his own heart was perfectly content remaining silent. Now she was asking him to become something he had imagined thousands of times but never expected to experience, even if it was only pretend. She explained everything during breakfast at their favorite cafe. Her grandmother had organized a massive family reunion at a mountain resort several hours away. The elderly woman had always dreamed of seeing Mirelle settle down with someone dependable before her health declined further. After recently recovering from surgery, her grandmother had become determined to gather every generation together for one unforgettable weekend. Unfortunately, the family had already heard countless stories about Rowan over the years. They knew his name. They knew he was always there whenever Mirelle needed help. They simply assumed he was already her boyfriend because neither of them had ever corrected the misunderstanding. Rather than break her grandmother's fragile happiness during such an emotional reunion, Mirelle had decided to let everyone believe the misunderstanding for just 2 days. Rowan wanted to refuse. Every instinct warned him that pretending to live the life he secretly wanted would only make reality more painful afterward. Yet one glance at Mirelle's worried expression dissolved every objection. She looked exhausted, carrying responsibilities that seemed heavier than anyone should bear alone. Her grandmother's health, work deadlines, family expectations, and months of emotional stress had dimmed the sparkle in her eyes. Helping her had always been the easiest decision Rowan ever made. The drive toward the mountain resort unfolded beneath clear blue skies. Bright sunshine covered endless fields of wildflowers, sparkling lakes, and forests dancing gently in the summer breeze. It felt like the world had decided to display its happiest colors while Rowan struggled to keep his emotions hidden behind casual conversation. Mirelle smiled more than she had in weeks, laughing over old college memories and singing along to songs they both remembered from carefree days when adulthood still seemed impossibly far away. For several peaceful hours, pretending almost felt natural. The illusion became real the moment they reached the elegant mountain lodge. Mirelle's relatives welcomed Rowan with warm embraces, playful jokes, and genuine affection that caught him completely off guard. Her grandmother held his hands with trembling fingers, tears shining in grateful eyes as she thanked him for taking care of her precious granddaughter. Rowan could barely respond. The elderly woman's happiness felt too sincere to deserve deception. Then came the unexpected problem. The resort had accidentally overbooked several rooms after a computer error. Every available suite was occupied except one. One room. One king-sized bed. The receptionist apologized repeatedly, promising extra blankets and a complimentary breakfast, but there was simply nowhere else to stay. Before Rowan could suggest sleeping in the lobby or driving back down the mountain, Mirelle quietly reached for his hand beneath the reception desk. Her fingers trembled. Without looking directly at him, she leaned closer and whispered softly that they only needed one room. Those 7 words echoed inside Rowan's heart for the rest of the day. The room itself was beautiful, filled with warm wooden furniture, enormous windows overlooking green valleys, and sunlight pouring across polished floors. It should have felt romantic. Instead, it felt dangerously honest. Every shared smile, every accidental glance, every quiet silence reminded Rowan how difficult pretending would become. To make things easier, he insisted on sleeping on the small couch beside the window. Mirelle protested at first but eventually accepted, arranging blankets herself before thanking him with a smile that seemed filled with emotions neither of them could explain. Throughout the afternoon, family activities filled every hour. They joined hiking trails, outdoor games, group photographs, and a picnic beside a crystal-clear lake reflecting the brilliant daytime sky. Rowan noticed something surprising. Mirelle wasn't acting. The warmth in her eyes whenever she looked toward him seemed effortless. Holding his arm during family pictures looked natural rather than rehearsed. Even her laughter sounded freer than it had in months. Several relatives quietly commented that they had never seen her so happy. Those innocent observations lingered inside Rowan's thoughts. Late that afternoon, he wandered alone through a flower garden behind the lodge. The peaceful surroundings gave him space to breathe until Mirelle's grandmother slowly joined him, walking carefully with the help of a wooden cane. She smiled knowingly before admitting she had watched them together all day. She spoke about the difference between people who merely stay beside someone and people who become their safe place. According to her, true love rarely arrived through dramatic declarations. It appeared quietly through years of loyalty, patience, sacrifice, and choosing the same person over and over again. Rowan listened silently, unable to reveal that none of it was real. Or perhaps it had always been real for him. That evening, the family gathered for dinner beneath colorful lights stretched across an open garden. Stories from different generations filled the air while children played beneath giant oak trees. The atmosphere carried a rare warmth that made strangers feel like relatives. Then everything changed. A luxury car stopped outside the lodge. From it stepped Alastair Voss, a sharply dressed businessman with expensive confidence and carefully rehearsed charm. Rowan recognized him immediately from photographs Mirelle had shown months earlier. He was the former fiancé who had ended their engagement only weeks before the wedding after choosing ambition over commitment. Mirelle had never fully explained the heartbreak, only admitting she had spent months questioning her own worth afterward. No one expected him to appear. Family conversations froze. Mirelle's smile disappeared. Alastair approached with polished apologies, claiming he had made the biggest mistake of his life and wanted another chance. He insisted he had come to win her back after realizing success meant nothing without the woman who had always believed in him. Rowan watched Mirelle struggle to breathe steadily. Old wounds had reopened within seconds. Then something unexpected happened. Without speaking, she reached for Rowan's hand. Not because relatives were watching. Not because the act needed convincing. Because she genuinely needed someone strong enough to keep her standing. For the first time that entire weekend, Rowan stopped pretending. Every comforting squeeze of her hand came from the deepest part of his heart. He didn't perform affection. He simply offered the safety he had always wanted to give her. Alastair noticed. He laughed bitterly before accusing Rowan of stealing someone who had never belonged to him. The accusation hung heavily in the evening air, waiting for someone to answer. Rowan remained silent. Mirelle did not. With calm strength that surprised everyone, she explained that no one could steal what another person willingly abandoned. She admitted she had spent months believing she wasn't enough until she realized the people who truly loved her had never once asked her to become someone different. She thanked Alistair for teaching her the painful difference between being admired and being valued. The entire garden fell silent. Alistair left alone. As darkness slowly settled beyond the mountains, Rowan realized he wasn't the only one whose heart had changed. Back inside their room, neither of them spoke for a long time. Moonlight slipped gently through the curtains while the peaceful sounds of distant crickets filled the silence. Rowan sat beside the window, convinced the weekend would soon end and life would return to normal. Instead, Mirelle quietly walked over and placed an old photograph into his hands. It showed two carefree college students sitting on library steps years earlier, laughing over something forgotten. On the back, she had written one sentence shortly after graduation. "The safest place I've ever found is beside you." Tears blurred Rowan's vision. Mirelle admitted she had written those words years ago but never found enough courage to share them. She confessed that after her broken engagement, she had finally understood something that had been quietly growing inside her heart all along. Every major memory she treasured somehow included Rowan. Every difficult day ended with his encouragement. Every celebration felt incomplete without him. She had spent years searching for extraordinary love while overlooking the ordinary kindness that had faithfully remained beside her from the beginning. The pretend relationship had forced her to see the truth she had hidden from herself. By sunrise, nothing between them needed pretending anymore. Months later, they returned to the same mountain lodge, this time beneath another bright blue daytime sky. Family members gathered once again, but this reunion carried different emotions. Rowan wasn't introduced as someone's pretend boyfriend. He stood proudly as the man asking Mirelle to become his wife. Her grandmother cried before anyone else. The answer came through joyful tears, radiant laughter, and the happiest embrace Rowan had ever known. Sometimes love doesn't arrive as a stranger. Sometimes it patiently waits inside the friendship that has quietly protected your heart for years. It doesn't demand attention. It earns trust one ordinary day at a time until one extraordinary moment reveals it was there all along. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, share it with someone who believes true love begins with friendship, leave a heartfelt comment, and subscribe to Ancient Truth so we can continue sharing stories that inspire hope and kindness. Special request, comment below with, "Kindness always finds its way home." We'd love to know where you're watching from and what part of this story touched your heart the most. Life often teaches us that second chances rarely look the way we imagine. Sometimes they arrive disguised as simple favors, unexpected journeys, or one quiet whisper saying there is only one room. Yet behind those ordinary moments can hide the beginning of an extraordinary future. Rowan and Mirelle discovered that the greatest love stories are not always built through grand gestures but through years of unwavering loyalty, quiet sacrifice, and choosing each other every single day. And perhaps, somewhere in your own life, someone has already been standing beside you with that same faithful heart, waiting for the day when pretending is no longer necessary, and love finally finds the courage to speak.